introduce myself to most people because I did do something a bit crazy. After secondary school, I actually went to, I did a new media arts diploma, but I found that it wasn't really quite what I wanted at that time. You know, I was young, I was 18, I was just wondering, oh, what should I do with myself? And at that time, I was really motivated. I wanted to go save the dolphins, being all naive. So I went to Australia to study, and I lived there for 5 years. So like every Singaporean, most people actually stay abroad, but I came back, and the first job that I landed was a pretty cool job. At the time, River Safari was setting up, and they were looking for basically the fish people, and I was like, oh, cool. So my degree did come in a bit handy. So I was an aquatic management officer at River Safari. So we were the guys who were helping to set up like all the quarantine tanks, all the exhibits, you know, getting everything moving. Yeah, so I stayed there for about 2 years, and then I left, became a marine biologist in some private company, basically consultancy. So my clients were basically fish farmers, shrimp farmers, and stuff like that. Okay, then somehow I left the industry by chance. I joined an events company. So it was like, why? At the time, my aunt started a company, and she was really looking for people. And she was like, "Hey, you know, why don't you come and join me, lah? You know, the pay is better. I'll give you a bit more, and why don't you explore this area?" So I actually joined. For 3 years, I stayed in an events company, and this is where I actually stumbled into marketing. And I found that I somehow could merge my design background and my science background into something a little bit more exciting, you know, like so I found like there was a nice converge of my skill sets between two industries. Yeah, so I'll share a little bit more about my events company experience. And then after that, I left. I joined a startup. So it was an app company, it's a food takeaway app company. So I was there for 6 months, but we ran a lot of campaigns during the 6 months. We did so many things. But it was a really fruitful, eventful 6 months that the company got acquired by Fave. So the startup CEOs were actually really happy. And now I'm actually in Rhino Technologies. I'll share a little bit more about what I'm doing currently. And yeah, so I'm currently the senior marketing manager there, and we do B2B and B2C marketing. Okay, so like I said, like I have various industry experience, so there's an ocean of skill sets that were acquired along the way, but not everything will be utilized at all the time. So like, you know, branding, content strategy, data analytics, all these things are all things that I've picked up along the way, and I have to continue growing in my skill sets. And they all converge into how I can utilize them for digital marketing. Oops. Oh. Yeah, so I'll share a little bit more about my events experience. So basically, when I joined ITMA, ITMA is, oh, something's not working. Sorry, guys. Okay, so ITMA is a textile machinery exhibition that's held once every 4 years in Europe. And basically all the clienteles are all your fashion industry people. You have your, it's like a one-stop shop. All you need for manufacturing your fabrics, everything like your baubles, your pins, you know, your needles and stuff like that will be sold at this fair. So a lot of people from all around the world will come to this event to showcase the latest technology, the products that they have, and stuff like that. And that's a perfect place for them to network. And this was pre-COVID, huh? Yeah. So the organizing team in Singapore shifted from traditional marketing to digital marketing in 2016. Back then, in 2016, I think they kind of realized that because they have an international crowd and a lot of the industry were filled with audiences of people above 60. So as European, I mean, in Europe, there's not a lot of push to for retirement age, right? So actually, a lot of the founding members are not retiring, and they're like 70, going 80s, and they're still going strong and still wanting to work. But they realized there was a new generation of millennial IT savvy CEOs. They're coming on board and dominating the fashion industry. So at that time, because we were planning 4 years in advance, right? So we kind of have to like view into the future. We needed to have foresight. And at the time, there was barely any social presence, apart from like an outdated website, very sad social media accounts, very corporate. They'll share like snapshots of themselves at the event, shaking hands with somebody. But they were very strong in traditional marketing, like they were amongst the older and established industry players, because the show has been around for a long time. So people knew them, and they were relying a lot on the word of mouth, as goes with most trade shows. So the organizing office in Singapore is considered SME. The team was very small. We had 4 people, and we had very tight marketing budgets. Okay. So there was something that we needed to do as a team. So we needed to do like a brand and communication update. Okay, so we needed to bring the trade show into the future. Now we were like showcasing about future technologies. So the theme on the show was innovation, technology, sustainability. So these 3 terms, I think, these 3 topics would be very popular now, and actually everything that you hear about these days, and for most companies, they always talk about usually these few topics. So on the left is the Instagram account, the very first few posts that had very little traction. They were showing photos of what happened at events, not very engaging, nothing very exciting. And we kind of morphed into really building the brand. We wanted something fresh. We wanted to attract the new people. We wanted the young blood, right? So we went for bolder graphics, loud, vibrant, and kind of uphold that brand style that we wanted to push. Of course, in terms of communication,
From laboring.
Yeah, so we also came up with a lot of content, like webisodes. And webisodes at the time, because videos were like on push, right? Facebook was pushing for videos. People were more drawn to watching videos. And so that's what we did. We spent a lot of effort on curating what the industry wanted to hear about. So we talk about like, for this one, sorry, I'll just play this video just to have.
From labor-intensive factories of yesteryears to modern factories, automation, sustainable technology, and socially responsible manufacturing are reshaping the global fashion and garment industry.
Yeah. So it's like we talk about the different topics because it's an end-to-end trade show. So we're talking about garment making, for example, like we have brands, big brands like Levi's that come to the show, and then they are featuring the latest technology that they have, and they won a sustainable award at the show for, I think, the new technology they use for the denim, which is they uses lesser water and I think less dye pollution into the environment. So these are the companies and these are the topics that were really very popular because all these big brands are pushing for more sustainable innovation, especially from what consumers actually want.
From labor.
Okay. So they are considered a thought leader, and they are the giants of the industry because the event is so huge. They have like 11 halls, and all these companies bring parts of their machinery to come to the show. So you can only imagine how grand, how big the scale of the event can be. So they are considered the thought leaders, and the giants of the industry, and they should walk the talk. Sorry, how do I get this thing? Yeah, so there should be consistency in the visuals, the messaging from all the channels. So this show was a good opportunity for us to explore using bolder graphics, bolder visuals, bolder videos, and actually communicate them to all the channels that we've like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here are some of the loose examples of what the team had to do within the 4 years of planning. So each time a show is about to happen, we have to pre-plan it 4 years in advance. That's a really, really long time. But because the show is so massive, it's crucial that the 4 years actually come into play. So during pre-show what they like to do is that they like to talk about the success of the previous show. So basically who was there, how large the event was, all the cutting edge technology that was featured. Did a lot of brand event awareness, because the whole objective of the show was to get more people to come for the next show. And obviously your relevant industry content. And they like to talk about where the venue is, when the next show is, because a lot of the exhibition halls in Europe will be they'll sort of compete against one another to try to get this show on board because they have massive following attendance. So exhibitors that are always returning to the next show, they use it part of the communication to the people who have not attended or who might want to attend for consideration, right? So they like to do name dropping, like your Levi's and or your Nike or whoever that appeared at the show. Okay, so during events, the event actually lasts for 7 days, and there's a lot of live updates. So the marketing team will be obviously engage an agency, local agency to help out, but everyone is like crazy. There are a lot of live updates because the crew will be running around doing live interviews, taking photos of the event, what's happening on site. And at the end of the day, the content are all usually edited, posted on social media at the end of the day. And there were a lot of digital billboards around the event halls. There's an event app that people get updated, but exhibitors and visitors get updates. So all the content that we are creating on the go, on the spot, was being shared live, or they can be accessed throughout the 7 days. Obviously, there's a lot of press, there's a lot of interviews that's going on that are valuable content that can be used and shared. Okay, so for post-show, it's very similar to your pre-show because your post-show is again another 4 years to start for the next show, right? So again, they'll talk about the success, blah, blah, blah. And this time they will really talk about, okay, where the new event place would take place. And then so they had cool locations. The last one was at Barcelona. The one that I attended was in Milan. And the next one will be back to Milan again. So I thought it was a really interesting and very successful blend between traditional marketing and digital marketing. Okay, so a lot of what they have been doing already over the years, but right now they're exploring new mediums, new content, and communicating through new channels. Okay, so I'm gonna start sharing about what I'm doing now. So I'm in Rhinan Technologies, and Rhinan Technologies is a Vietnamese tech company that basically innovates new products. They focus a lot on R&D. They produce like ICP products, means like all your IoT, internet connected devices, smart devices, and stuff like that. Okay, and I was just going to talk about this. I'll share a little bit more about this company. It was very overwhelming when I first joined because I was the first hire, and they didn't have a marketing team. And at the time, they were already running 3 to 4 years. Okay, and I realized it's actually quite common for a lot of family businesses that started out because their focus is not marketing. They don't even think about marketing. They don't know what marketing is about. Okay, and then now let alone digital marketing. So I thought the first step of digital marketing is branding. If a company doesn't know who they are, what they can provide, it's very hard to communicate that to the audience that they want to reach out to. Okay, I'm sorry, wait, hang on. So yeah, so I'll share a little bit more. We are in a lot of industries, okay, and we have a lot of products. So my boss likes to joke that the guys in Vietnam, the R&D center, are a bunch of geeks sitting around at the table trying to come up with like new tech and new products. They like to think that they're the Apple of the world, of Vietnam. But this is what they do. So they create all these smart devices for various industries. But the problem that they had was there was no clear brand identity. They were not very clear with how to communicate what they have and the talent that they had, the technology that they had. Okay. And for them, marketing was simply create a logo and then, if I have a new business, let me use the same logo because essentially it's still the same company. I change the color and then they plaster it all over their products. So to me, I thought that was a branding nightmare. Yeah. Okay. So so when I joined the company in 2019, what I did was, I think I spent the whole first year trying to go through all the materials, everything that they had, getting to know the company, doing my research. And it seemed that there are similar trends again from what I experienced in INMA: innovation, technology, sustainability. Okay. And obviously, I started websites for them because they didn't have a very user-friendly website to hold their products. So I did a lot of B2B marketing. I did web revamp. I spent whole year doing video contents for them because they had a photographer and videographer in Vietnam, but they were shooting really long videos, like 3-4 minutes videos, and they put some like Vietnamese music. It's just not appetizing for international market if that is what they are trying to aim for. So we ran a lot of LinkedIn and Facebook ads. We also did Google ads, display ads, and search. Yeah, so let me just share with you this example of what we were doing. So it's very hard to make. Yes, let's do it. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so the coding and marking industry, which is these printers, they're printers that print your barcodes on your food packaging, on your aluminum cans, telling you expiry date. They want to put additional barcodes so that people can scan. When your logistics people can scan, you can check for consumers, and they also can scan and check whether the product that you're about to use is authentic. So a lot of applications can be used for these printers. Yeah, but they didn't know how to communicate that. They only were good at selling, and it's like mouth to mouth, trade shows. So very traditional marketing as well in that sense. So this is where I came in, and I established new channels and try to create new content for people to digest. Okay, and so moving on to the next, the B2C marketing that I had the opportunity of doing. Same thing. How do you make fertilizer sexy? How do you even sell fertilizers to people in Singapore? It's not something that we go around boasting like, oh yeah, it's like my new Nike shoe. It's not. It's a product that most people, if you're not into gardening, wouldn't even think about. So where do you even go? How do you even begin marketing something like that? So we spent a little bit of time trying to understand Singapore market, because that's where we launched the product in Singapore. So obviously we did create a website, so we put all the materials on the website, trying to make it a little bit more visually pleasing, cleaned up the content, and we also opened up a lot of e-commerce stores. So we have Shopify, we are on Lazada, we are on Shopee. So we made it a little bit more accessible for people. Apart from physically outreaching to nurseries and stuff like that. But at the time when we launched the product, it so happened to be COVID. So we were doing almost everything online at that time. We ran a lot of Facebook ads. We used social media to come up with content to make it a little bit more fun and interesting for our viewers. And because of COVID, I'm not sure if you guys knew, a lot of people found new hobbies, and one of the hobbies was gardening. So we took the opportunity to reach out to these new hobbyists to try and sell the product. Okay. So One of the marketing frameworks that I found extremely useful in my career is this framework. And I'm sure if you Google it, frameworks, you'll probably come across this. Um, Research is the first step. So when I join any company or I start any project, the first thing I will do is research, right? So I think this is quite a logical step. You need to understand the founder's vision, mission, business goals, objectives. So you'll probably do your SWOT analysis, your competitor analysis, and all that. Market research is really important. You need to identify who your key audiences are. Who are they? What are they? Where are they? Sorry. What do they need and what do they want? Also, your brand and product positioning, your UVP, your unique value proposition. So, for example, if you sell our fertilizers, could be in Vietnam is actually so pretty low value, although it's a smarter technology. But in Singapore, we wanted to position ourselves at a little bit more premium because it's a single application and you use it for maybe like you buy it for 6 months and use it one time. So we wanted to price it a little bit more attractively, not too expensive and not too cheap as well. Okay. Next step will be planning. After you know you've done all your research, your base, your groundworks, you have your baseline, you need to plan. What do you want to achieve? So you need to identify your marketing goals, your objectives. Obviously, you need to plan your campaigns when the schedules are. What is your budget? And most small companies don't have budget. So how? You need to be creative. So yeah, and then your execution plan. Do you want to run your campaigns for 6 months? What do you need to do? What's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, for example? And you need to determine what the right channels and matrix for measurement. And all these things are very important to determine whether all the effort that you put in the beginning actually is fruitful, useless, or not. Okay. Now, obviously, you move on to your implement and experiment stage. Okay, this is the part where you're creating content. So after you've done your planning, you already know, okay, you have an idea, okay, what you want to create. This is when you set up all your campaigns, your schedules, you do your A/B testing, running visual A versus visual B or copy 1 versus copy 2, and then seeing which one works. It's the most basic explanation. Yeah, so on and so forth. And measure, obviously, after all the efforts, you need to collect all the data. So you're running digital platforms, so you have all your analytics and stuff like that. But you need to determine from the start, what is it that you need? Not everybody wants all the information there. They provide a lot of information, but not everybody can use it or want to use it. So your data collection analysis is what you predetermine. Okay. And obviously the last step is to evolve and optimize. Essentially boils down to what can we do? How can we do better next time? Okay. So in terms of when you're researching, especially for a company like my company, where they had very unclear branding, they don't know what branding is. They thought it's just a logo, a simple color. You need to establish a consistency in your visuals, your logos, your messaging for each product and business stream. And that can actually that will help you to lead to your last step, evolve and optimize. Okay, so basically for measurement, yeah, what does the data you have collected means to your effort? Okay. So this is an example of my content planning. So I'll share a little bit about my content planning process and how is it important to plan ahead. A lot of SMEs actually don't plan ahead. I know they're just like, oh, the CEO has a great idea. Why don't we talk about flowers? And then, the marketing team will scramble and go to, of course, you don't want to be in a situation where you scramble. So it's good to always pre-plan, whether 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead. Yeah, so this is a snapshot of how I planned with one of my interns, that we have all these content ideas and we pre-plan, okay, when do we want to schedule, like on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these are the possible topics that we can share. And how we actually went about it is that we theme every month for the year. So we were planning for 6 months. So for example, June the theme was farm to table. Okay, so everything in this month, whatever content that we're churning out will be related to farm to table. Instead of just selling like telling people, oh, I got a bottle of my fertilizer here. Buy this Tetamate. It's good for your vegetables. If you use it for 30 days, your vegetables will do well. It's a little bit boring. It's a bit hard selling. So we went for the alternative. We wanted to talk about, for example, farm to table. What are the things that involve farm to table? The whole thing. Vegetables. If you're growing vegetables, what can you use vegetables for? What are the benefits of eating vegetables? If you're growing herbs, what kind of applications can you use for herbs? What are they good for? How can you apply it? So simple things like that. Okay, so yeah, don't just talk about your product, make them relatable to your audiences. If, for example, our B2C segment, we were using Instagram and it's really Singaporean, our target market was Singapore. So we wanted to make it more relatable and in terms of making it Singaporean content. So the way we write our copy is also adjusted a little bit to how a Singaporean would want to read stuff or is used to, our visuals as well. And another tip that I found that when we were planning all these grand plans is that to be very flexible with your plans. For example, you have a list of topics that you want to talk about, but somehow you're not able to push it in time because, let's say, your intern that's helping you is sick and you cannot churn out enough the visual in time. So you need to have always a backup plan on what you can share just to buy time. Okay. So these are some tools that I found very useful for creating online content and on the fly. I use Over. I'm not sure if you guys are like Apple users or Android users. This is only available I think it's available on Android, but it's limited to quite a lot of things. So I use it on an Apple phone. I found this really useful because they give you a lot of content suggestion, layout suggestions. And you can have your little projects and you can just edit when you're like on the bus or like you're traveling on MRT, or if you see something cool out there and you want to like do something at a cafe. So I thought that was very useful for me. Another thing is that Video Leap. Video Leap, because we have to edit a lot of videos on the go. And sometimes we want to meet deadlines, right? And you have an inspiration when you're sitting at a cafe. So I will edit my videos using Video Leap, the free version as well, and come up with something really short and quick, sweet to share on Instagram or Facebook. Adobe Spark as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Adobe Spark, but yeah, it has a lot of cool templates that you can check out, even for ideas, layout ideas and stuff like that. And they have animation, which is a cool thing that Over doesn't have. So you're able to animate a static image and let the text pop up, for example. Okay. Yeah. So some of my key takeaways. No one woman or man can do it all. If you can, outsource within your budget. Know your audience, create valuable content. Be clear on your marketing and objectives. So if you've done your research and you know exactly instead of just, okay, I want to sell. And that is probably what most business owners want to do. They want to sell. But you need to be clear on your marketing goals. You need to help them achieve that goal by making it a little bit more interesting for your viewers, your consumers. Okay, and you need to constantly explore and experiment. Be consistent with your branding. So if your color is green, black, and white, make sure your green, black, and white is visually shown in most of your collaterals. For example, this is the most loose basic term. And don't hard sell. Don't keep saying, oh, I have fertilizer, this is my fertilizer, buy my fertilizer, and this is good for you. But think a little bit more outside of the box and work on the soft selling. And really get to know your audience. So knowing your audience helps, and do a lot of research as well on what your competitors are doing seeing the trends, the typical trends that people are interested in reading as well. Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm done, Henry. uh, okay, sure.